Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for clicking on this Rank the Movies video. We are still in our Shakespeare month. We're halfway through, and that means, well, we're going to talk about my favorite dramatic Shakespeare film and my favorite piece of dramatic Shakespeare. We are talking about Kenneth Branagh's 1996 version of Hamlet. So to get into this, you have to go into the elephant in the room. This movie is 4 hours and 2 minutes long. That is a huge movie. It is one of the longest theatrical movies in history. I don't think it has the title of the longest theatrical movie in history, but it ranks up there because this is not just any version of Hamlet. This is the complete version of Hamlet. This is every line of dialogue from the first folio with the additions of the Cuso, the first folio, both being believed to be some of the best versions of these shows that have been held over through the years. So you often hear people who talk Shakespeare talking about what the first folio said, that the first folio might be so many lines different from this other version. That means we should believe the first folio. There's also the second folio. I'm going to stop talking about folios, but this is complete. Kenneth Branagh cut out only 3 words from all of Hamlet to make this movie, and those 3 words was because a line of dialogue was delivered during a transition between scenes, and the line of dialogue began with, "Oh, Gertrude, Gertrude." So those 3 words were removed because you couldn't actually see who Claudius was talking to, so Branagh removed those 3 words. Otherwise, this is Hamlet. This is all of Hamlet. Originally, they were going to release a 2.5-hour version for mass markets, but the decision was then made to just release the full 4-hour and 2-minute version. One of the things, because I have a VHS, which is 2 tapes, which seems about right. Most VHSs of a movie over 3 hours long would be 2 tapes. The Blu-ray is actually only 1 disc. However, a DVD is also available, which I do believe is 2 discs. I do believe they had to split the movie between 2 discs, which is not something you see very often in theatrical films. This movie also was released in the Laserdisc format. I also have a Laserdisc of Much Ado About Nothing. I didn't have it in my house. It's in my office at work, so I didn't show that one off. But I do have the Laserdisc of Hamlet hanging on my wall. It's actually literally a box, so this is just the front. The back is still on the wall, because I didn't feel like pulling it all the way down. But I want to show something. So this is not a Laserdisc-friendly movie, because a Laserdisc already, an hour-and-a-half movie, requires you to flip a Laserdisc. I have a Laserdisc of Hamlet right here. So Hamlet is on both sides of this Laserdisc. So partway through the movie, you would have to flip it. However, Hamlet is 4 hours long. So after you get through side 1, you flip it over and you watch side 2. Then you put in disc 2, side 1, and flip that over to access disc 2, side 2. Then you put in disc 3, side 1, and halfway through, you flip that to get to disc 3, side 2. Magically, I actually had these in the right order. Not the right sides, but the right order of discs. I actually showed disc 1 as the first one. Alright, so spanned 6 laser discs. Because 3 discs, 2 sides a disc, 6 laser discs to get through this 4-hour movie. I could not imagine watching this on Laserdisc. I cannot imagine having to go up 5 times between changing discs and flipping discs. You've got what? You've got your initial, you put in side 1, you have a flip, so that's 1. You're going to have to put in, switch discs, so that's 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5. You have 5 transitions, not counting the initial putting the disc in. So you have 6 transitions by Wobbuffet. You have 6 transitions to get us. This is going to be precarious, and this isn't going to work. I don't know why I'm trying this. This is also going to be in the way. This is going to be real awkward for the rest of this review. Okay, that's not going to work. Did I lose Amelia? No, I didn't. All right. But yeah, so six transitions to get through this movie. A lot of people are just going to tell you watch the Mel Gibson version that released in 1990. I've never cared for that version personally. To me, I'd rather spend the extra 2 hours and watch a complete version of The Prince of Denmark, Hamlet. This movie boasts a huge cast. And I'll get back to the Mel Gibson as to why I like this version better. So this movie boasts a huge cast. You have Kenneth Branagh, obviously. He directed the movie. He stars in this movie. You have Billy Crystal, who plays one of the first gravediggers. You have Gerard Depardieu. Before anyone cared about who Gerard Depardieu was in America, he helped finance this film in foreign countries, so he was given a small part. He plays a messenger. Charlton Heston Keanu Reeves did Shakespeare in Much Ado About Nothing. We have Charlton Heston doing Shakespeare, playing the player who is played by Richard Dreyfuss in another offshoot, which I'm talking about next week. But Charlton Heston, you have Derek Jacobi, who's in Murder on the Orient Express, my second favorite movie of all time. He plays our villainous King Claudio. Claudio is not the correct name. That's Much Ado About Nothing. Is it Claudio? Are they both Claudio? They might both be Claudio. No. That's talking about the cast. Of course not. King. It's Gertrude and freaking, he plays the king. You have Jack Lemmon playing one of the guards at the beginning who sees the ghost. Starts with an M. I can't remember it off the top of my head now. You also have Robin Williams playing a character at the very end who sets up the duel. And you have Kate Winslet right before she did Titanic. Literally, she got the offer to do Titanic while filming this movie. She plays Ophelia. That's not even all the names listed on here. Those are just the names I recognize and can point to other things these people have done. So, Kenneth Branagh was to be able to make a 4-hour-long movie. He was told he had to fill this movie with a bunch of actors people recognized. He could not make this movie without doing that. Otherwise, no one was going to give him money. No one was going to give him money to spend 4 hours doing this masterpiece. In fact, oddly enough, Stephen Fry is credited as a special thanks in the credits. He's not in the movie, and he is a friend of Kenneth Branagh, so he must not have been available. He must have been working on something else, because apparently Branagh wrote this in his kitchen, which, again, it's taking Hamlet and it's moving into a theatrical idea. So it's mainly what Branagh wrote was mainly transitions. Like, how do you transition in film to scene 1 to scene 2? The Hamlet Blu-ray I have is actually a special edition book. I have 2 of the 3. I have Ghostbusters and Little Shop of Horrors. My Blu-rays on those are the same. And it's just this great little book about the movie and how it came together. Like Act 4 trivia. I don't know if this is about Act 4 of Hamlet or... Okay, this is just broken into acts. Kenneth Branagh saw his first production of Hamlet at age 15. That's horrible trivia. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I read that. That one actually is interesting. They used 5 different sound stages at Sepperton Studios, which is one of the biggest studios in the world, or was at the time, to create the sets for this movie, because the sets were all sets. They had an exterior, but it was just the exterior. All the interiors were sets to control things. I would get into the plot of this movie, but it's Hamlet. Like, I feel like most people know what Hamlet is and what the plot of Hamlet is. So I want to talk about the movie. I want to talk about why watch this production of Hamlet. Because again, you have the Mel Gibson version of Hamlet that came out a few years before this. You have a weird Ethan Hawke version of Hamlet I know came out in 2000-something. I tried watching it. I couldn't get through the first half an hour of that one. I like this one. I like this one because it does something you don't expect. Hamlet's a very dark play. He's a very dark and brooding character. And the Gibson one gives you that. Everything's dark. Everything's brooding. It looks, that's the entire, palette is dark. Kenneth Branagh didn't do that. He went bright. Hamlet's in black. Everything else uses so many colors of the palette. You get whites, reds, yellows. He made sure that the world itself was bright and happy, and Hamlet was the darkness in this world. And I think that was really cool. I think that was a great concept. I think it was a great idea, and I really like it. Some people don't. Some people really hate the fact that this movie is so bright for such a dark play, where you have 8 corpses by the end of it. If you count the king, also, I think you get 9 if you count the king. But since the king doesn't die on stage, he's just referenced, and his character is already dead. I think it's 8. I think you get 8 victims by the end of this, most of whom die in the final scene. Because this thing ends, you get Gertrude killed off. You get Laertes killed off. You get the king killed off. Hamlet is dead. You find out Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are both dead, so we do count the king in the 8. Because Polonius has also died, and Ophelia. There are the 8 characters who die. The king would make 9. So you have 8 people who are dead by the end of this. The crown of Denmark is vacated. You find out the son of a conquered nation shows up and just sits on the throne. That's how this play ends. This play ends with the leader of a Fortinbras, the leader of the Dutch. No, Denmark would be the Dutch. He leads the Finnish. I think he's a soldier from Finland who was the prince, but he got usurped by his uncle as well when his father got taken over, because King Hamlet, Hamlet's father, once he defeated Fortinbras's father, confusing names, I understand, did not want Fortinbras to be the heir apparent, so he gave the throne to King Fortinbras's brother. So now Fortinbras is under the rule of his uncle as well, so he rides into Denmark, sees the dead family, and he takes the throne. He takes the throne for himself because there is nobody else to challenge him. So you end up with somebody who's found himself in almost the exact same position as Hamlet, where his father has been killed, his uncle has usurped his spot and taken the throne, whereas Hamlet tries to do something about it and is dead. Fortinbras, who obeys his uncle and has obeyed him this entire time, shows up and gets a kingdom. It's a weird little thing that's barely played out, because you only hear of Fortinbras throughout the show a couple of times until the ending is where he shows up. So, I think that's a really interesting part of this show, and because you get all of Hamlet, you get all of the subtle nuances that come with Hamlet, all of the great dialogue. It's a lot. It is a lot to go through because it's 4 hours long, but it is a really enjoyable 4 hours. Again, the set design, the costumes are amazing in this movie, and they just kind of draw you in. Yes, everyone's talking in Shakespeare, so if you don't understand Shakespeare, it's 4 hours where you're going to be really, really, really lost, just because there's a lot of scenes. And most of the scenes have really simple concepts behind them. Like the first scene is, oh no, we've seen a ghost, go tell Hamlet. We then get, the uncle has married the mother. Hamlet is unhappy about this. Hamlet finds out that he can see his father's ghost. Hamlet sees his father's ghost. I basically summed up Act 1 of, you know what, I'll sum up Act 1. If that isn't all of Act 1, I'm about to find out what I'm missing. So I'm looking for Hamlet. There we are. Page 670 is Hamlet in this book. 682, 672. Marcellus! That's who Jack Lemmon plays. Alright, so we have scene 3. Oh yeah, Polonius sends his son to France and tells his daughter, don't be in love with Hamlet. That's part of Act 1. I already covered that one. More of the ghost in Hamlet, being told my father... Yeah, so that's Act 1. Act 1 is... I'm sorry, I didn't skip a scene. Act 1 is Fortinbras is marching, but he's not attacking us. Ghost King. Uncle and mother are married. Hamlet's upset. Polonius sends his son away and tells his daughter not to be in love with Hamlet. Hamlet and the ghost, and that's Act 1. That is Act 1 in a nutshell of what happens. I could keep going and go through Act 2 and Act 3, and they're all here! Every last word that's in this book, and probably words that aren't in this book, because this is not based on the first folio, are going to be in this version. So, is it long? Is it arduous? Yes. But if you wanted to see a full version of Hamlet, a complete version of the story, is this the way to go? Yes. Is it something you sit down and just go, man, I'm going to watch Hamlet today? No. No, you schedule to watch this. Like, I'm going to watch this today, from here to here, schedule some bathroom breaks in there, make sure a meal's involved. But yeah, that's what you have to do with Hamlet. But it is a great version. Kenneth Branagh does an amazing job. And yeah, it's not my favorite Branagh movie. I'm not sure if this is my favorite Branagh Shakespeare, or if it is Much Ado About Nothing. Because that is also a really good version of that story. But I like Hamlet. I do. I like this version of Hamlet. I think it's superior. It's the best version of Hamlet I've seen. There might be others, but it's the best version of Hamlet I've seen. And when I do decide to sit down and watch it, I genuinely enjoy myself. So yeah, so if you've never seen it and you got half a day to kill, give it a try. Sit down and watch it. Give Hamlet a try, but definitely don't watch the Laserdisc, because then it's a 4-hour movie, and I joke that you need 6. That you need half a day to watch it. A quarter of a day at least, which would be 6 hours. But if you watch the Laserdisc, you might legitimately need half a day, because when you have to turn a disc over that much, you start contemplating whether you don't want to take a break or not. That was the thing about having these 2-taped VHSs back in the day. You watched part 1, and then if you didn't have a rewinder, you had to wait for it to rewind, because you rewound. Always rewound things. And then it's like, well, do I put in part 2 right away? Do I wait? Do I not put in part 2? Should I put in part 2? And then, like, there's that dance. Or, like, do I want to take a pee? Do I want to grab something to eat? Do I got to go run some errands before I start tape 2? So it is that question even with, when you get 2 tapes or 2 discs. Luckily I have a Blu-ray, which does not have that problem. It just goes. I'm going to assume the theatrical experience back in 1996, this movie had an intermission, probably just to give people time to stretch. I feel like it had to have had an intermission as part of its theatrical experience, and I'm pretty sure that's where the tapes would cut, is at intermission. I don't know, I can't guarantee that, I never saw it in theaters, so yeah, I like this version. I'm a fan of the Kenneth Branagh Hamlet. Alright, so next week I move on to things inspired by the works of Shakespeare. Not directly plays written by Shakespeare, but similar concepts. In fact, we're going to stick with Hamlet for another week, because I'm going to talk about the play based on 2 minor characters. It also has a film version, and I'll be talking about the film version primarily, and it's Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead. It's a hilarious comedy starring Tim Roth and Gary Oldman. Before either of them were famous, before anyone cared who they are. Richard Dreyfuss was the most famous actor in this movie at the time it was released back in 1999. So come back next week to hear me talk about that movie. It's a good time. And I will talk to you later. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I hope you're having some good times and some great moments this November. And you're sitting down with some family pretty soon and having some good turkey time. Alright, I don't think Thanksgiving is the week this releases, but anyways, I'm putting it here. I'll talk to you later. Have a good one.